How are you?
Hello.
Look
Really
at
good. How are you?
good. We're gonna have the best conversation with perfect English, and I won't. It will be perfect.
I'm getting ready for tomorrow. I'm traveling tomorrow back to Toronto, so this is my back in the English. I'm getting my brain again seasoned in English.
But do a lot of people speak? Do you ever speak English here in Argentina? Because I play polo. I don't know if you know this, but all my polo players speak very well in English, and it's annoying for me because I'm trying to get my Spanish much better. Because when I learned Spanish, I learned in Spain, and it's very different. So many different words. But there are a lot of people that speak English here, and they love to speak English, which is killing my vibe. I'm trying to be Latin, and it's not working.
Well, here, every time I'm here, I'm always speaking in Spanish.
Okay.
So my brain, because I am like truly bilingual, when I come here, I go all Spanish. And then I go back to Toronto, and suddenly like I take 2 or 3 days and my brain is back in English. And even my accent, like now maybe you'll see that some of the words are there.
Yeah.
But after a few days there, then I'm like, okay, back into my routine in English, whatever. It comes back naturally.
So do you dream in English or Spanish?
Both. Yeah.
Once in a while, I'll dream in Spanish a little bit, and then it goes back to English. But that's like, I would love that, to dream
I
in
write
Spanish.
in English more than Spanish because I
Oh.
did go to university in English. So I do find my writing is always in English.
Interesting.
But now I told myself, okay, I'm going to start reading in Spanish to be able to write better in Spanish.
So are your songs, when you translate from English to Spanish to record, does it translate the same as when you wrote it, or does it change the meaning a little bit?
Usually I don't really translate them. I write them in Spanish or in English. And I go like, I'm more of in the flow moment. Like if I hear a beat, I'm like, this is going to be better in English. It's going to be better in Spanish. But definitely if I have to translate something specific, it does change a little bit.
So if I were to just guess, my daughter's actually a singer. She's been touring since she was 14, toured with One Direction, but her genre is pop rock. So if I were to look at you, I would think maybe you're a pop rock girl, but then I listen to your song and it's like poppy kind of rap. Like what is your genre? What would you say, like in general, you want your music to be?
It's everything. I always say I don't love a genre. I love music. So to me, it's more like as an artist to be like, okay, I feel this way. How do I want to express this? Like which genre is going to fit better the emotion that I have right now? Which has been, I don't know if a challenge in my career, but definitely something that it's not in the formula of how to make commercial music, you know? Usually you have to choose like a genre and stuff like that. I'm more versatile in what I do. Like if I'm mad, I'll do a rock song. If I'm sad, I want to do a ballad. If I want to feel like I'm a bad, can I say a bad word?
Yes.
A bad bitch.
We can swear as much as you want. Fuck, vagina, vagina, vagina.
I'm like, if I want to feel like a bad bitch, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do like pony, that's a dimbo. It's really depending on how I feel. But in a big scope, I would say the genre is pop because I do try to go for things that a more popular audience will like.
And do you... Like, I know you went to Canada to start your music career. I actually know an agent who deals with DJs in Canada and now is in the U.S. It's interesting to go there instead of doing your music career in the U.S. because, you know, we have places like Nashville. If you're a songwriter, I mean, my daughter went to Nashville for 3 months and wrote. Like, have you ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, they told me I should do that. I feel like the good thing about Canada is that it's still a really virgin kind of market, especially for a Latino. Right now, the government was like giving grants and stuff because they want to put out a Latin artist. They're like, we never had a Latin artist yet.
Yes.
But it is a way smaller industry. And The Weeknd, Drake, Justin Bieber, they all had to go to the States.
They did.
So it's really hard to make it from Canada, from Toronto.
Yeah.
The only one who actually like I would say made it there was The Weeknd because he did get a buzz in the city. So he does inspire me a lot.
But you know he's related to some very famous people.
Related?
Yes.
Oh my God, I thought he was homeless and he like came from like, okay, I have to check this. I'm such a big fan of his. I didn't know that.
You should. But yeah, he has some connections, a lot of them. But not to say that he's not incredibly talented, which obviously...
I went to his show when he was here and I was like...
But did you see the TV show he just made?
Yes.
And what did you think about that?
So I understood it. I think a lot of people didn't understand the concept.
Yes.
I liked it. Maybe I'm biased because I'm such a big fan of his. He can put out anything and I'll be like, yes. But
I thought he was so creepy. I was like, and I liked him, but I was like, oh my God, you're a pedophile. You're so weird. Like, ew.
I think he was trying to show like the dark side of the entertainment industry, and maybe to some people it looked a little cliche.
Yeah.
But I think it's a reality, especially if like a vulnerable woman alone in an industry like the music industry is definitely a prey.
Well, so speaking of that, I imagine. So tell me a little bit about your childhood, because basically when I read about you, we don't read a lot until you're 18. There's not much. So do you draw from things that happened to you, you know, before you were 18? And is that part of your music? And was it difficult, or did you have for you an easy, you know, life?
I'm still working on my childhood a lot. I feel like I've worked the 18 up, which is pretty. I
knew it. We're missing those first 18 years, and we need them.
The first 18 years I'm still working on. I haven't brought them to the music either. I think that's. I always joke, and I'm like, I gave the public everything of me, and I want to keep the childhood for the movie, for the documentary.
I think there's going to be one. I really believe that. I do.
But
tell me a little. You have to just expand upon that a little bit. Like, I have a lot of friends that are famous or very creative people that had traumatizing childhoods, and they're now doing, very interestingly enough, ketamine treatments. I'm not saying you need to do this, but this is happening in the US right now, where you go back and you live through those, and then you kind of get out of them and you get past them. So is it stuff that's traumatic for you, or
I'm still trying to even remember a lot of things about my childhood. So basically I was born in Atlanta. I came to Argentina when I was like 1-2 years.
Okay.
And then I moved to Germany. Actually, that's where I learned English. Wow. I went to like an international school. My dad in that time, he had a really good job and everything, so they put us in a special school. And then I came back to Argentina, and my parents got divorced there, and that's kind of when everything started getting a little bit rocky. My mom, she started dating someone who was kind of like special. I'm still trying to, decipher that with my therapist.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna read between the lines with you.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm still trying to be like, okay.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that a lot of things happening at home back at that time was the reason that out of nowhere I was like, I have to leave. And when I was 18, I was like, okay, I'm getting out. That's it. Bye. It was a really rash decision. It was one day to another. I just called my dad and I was like, hey, I just need to go to Canada, because he was a citizen there, so he could get me the residence. And in the lapse of 3 days, I just moved to Canada. And it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on, but I'm in the country.
No friends, just your father. And then did you live with him and he helped you, or you did it all on your own?
He tried to help me as much as he could, but he does have a new family. So it was kind of like, it was clashing a lot. So I just left right away after 3 months. And that was, I think, the beginning of a lot of chaos, because even though I was 18, and something that I like to teach in my story when I tell it to people, being of age and being 18 does not mean that you're mature, does not mean that you're ready for the world. You're still a child. Yes. You're still a teenager. I was really unconscious. I was really protected by my mother.
Yes.
I was really vulnerable, and I was alone in Toronto, which is not an easy city. Toronto is ruthless.
Yeah, really. I always think of my Canadian people as being so nice and everything's so bubbly and...
Well, no. they are really nice. I definitely would choose Toronto any day over maybe an American city, because it is more aggressive.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away that it's not an easy city, right? Especially coming from here, that everyone is so warm and nice. You get to Toronto and just like the weather, people are more cold there. They're distant. And I had to learn how to be alone. I had to fall in love with being lone. I don't know if lonely, but solitude. At first I was lonely, and then I learned the difference between being solitude and being lonely.
I think that's a really good trait to have. I think being able to be alone with yourself is an aspect of maturity that a lot of people don't have, which is probably why you're grounded.
That's why I fell in love in Toronto. Like, everyone is like, why do you like Toronto if you were so alone? And I'm like, I had to spend almost 10 years by myself, and I had to fall in love with my solitude. And now I'm going back there tomorrow, and I'm like, I'm so excited to just be alone in the city, in the cold.
But you fell in love with somebody there.
I had a couple of romances.
Tell me a little bit about that. I've heard rumblings
there was a couple.
Some stressful ones. I want to hear about that, because it's hard when I read about your history. Some of the things are confusing. So Tell me.
So from the most like traumatizing, the most important ones, and the ones that I grab more inspiration from when I write. One of them was a fraudster. So I met him. Basically, we gotta tell the whole story. I go there. I needed money. I started meeting the wrong people, which was come model for cars. It all starts getting into a big web that I do end up in the sex industry.
Yep.
And being in the sex industry, I fall in love with a client. And in my chaotic, romantic, dramatic mindset, I was like, I'm going to run away with this guy. So I did run away with him.
But he was paying you for sex.
He was paying for sex.
And you fell in love with him.
Yes.
That is like a 101 don't do. Now listen, I want to tell you something so you feel good about yourself. This story is not uncommon in LA. I live in LA. And I know women from every walk of life who have also been in the sex industry, but without even... You say it very bluntly. These women, sometimes they're dating wealthy men that give them gifts, but essentially it's the same exact thing. So I just want to say that right now.
Well, it's like the sugar daddy thing, right? It's still a sex industry. If you're going out with someone for any
there's
sort
a website,
of material.
Sugar Daddies. What is it? Where you
seeking arrangements?
No, there's one called like Find Sugar Daddies, and then they sign up, and you can be a girl. That it's crazy.
I feel those are so funny because I've gone into those, and a lot of times they're like, if you just want money, don't talk to me. And it's like, but why are we here? Like, what do you mean in your profile if you just want money? It's called like sugar daddy seeking arrangements.
Because they want to believe in their fucked up head that you actually really like them. And I laugh about that because there's so many rich men that love to pay for sex. And they're like, oh, they would pay me. I'm like, no, they fucking wouldn't, buddy. Like, people are very confused about it. So this guy must have been really good if he got you to fall in love with him. Like, whoa, turn to events.
He knew the game. He definitely knew the game. I was really young, and a lot of girls that are 18 are more awake than I was. I was extremely naive, extremely innocent, and he saw that, and I fell in love, and I was like, okay, I'm going to run away with him, whatever. I don't even think he gave me his real name. I tried to find out. But did you get
money out of him?
Well, when he was paying, the first time I saw him, I did, but then no.
Okay.
He did, however, take me shopping, which was one of the things I also like fell in love. I remember going to a store and he was like, pick everything you want. And I'm like, what?
Welcome to LA.
And I'm like, what do you mean pick everything you want? He's like, pick everything you want. And I'm like, of course. I ended up like, wow. And then he told me, he's like, don't you want to go to Argentina to see your mom? I'll pay you the ticket, first class, everything. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I'm going to see you. This was in December. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and I'll come see you for Christmas. So you just go, I'll do my things, and then I'll come see you for Christmas. To this, I already had like disappeared from basically the pimp. I disappeared. I left with him, and he was like calling. He was like, where are you? Whatever. This guy scammed me because the way he was scamming was that he did have a credit card terminal. Yeah. Because he had a registered business. Okay. So he was paying via credit card all these days. They were kind of like laundering the money, whatever. And then all the credit card came back because it was all fraud. So he was like, this guy stole from me. Where are you? Blah, blah. And I just disappeared and then came to Argentina. And I was waiting for him. And he never showed up. And I started like calling him, sending him videos. I'm like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And I get a call from the bank. And they're like, ma'am, we have an issue. It's like, why was there this really big amount of money in your account and then it was taken away? Basically, he used my identity and my account to do fraud. Wow. That's why he was not picking up. And I was just here in Argentina, stranded. And I was like, wait a minute, how do I go home now? What do I do?
Well, let me ask you a question. So how was your relationship with the pimp? My friend actually directed a movie called Pimp. So she researched so much. Actually, do you know who Keke Palmer is? Yeah. Okay, so she was the female pimp, a lesbian pimp, and she researched a lot of that. How was your relationship with your pimp? Because he's supposed to, or she was supposed to be protecting you. So
I had a lot of different pimps because I've been around that one specifically. He was really creepy because he was not like, he had his people working for him, like a collar and everything. It was more like, and when I met him, it was not like he was coercing me with a gun in my head. Yeah. But the moment I met him, he was like, you're not going to say anything about this. He was like, I'm going to try you first. Okay. You can't tell anyone that I'm the first one that tries you. And he was a really aggressive and scary person. Clearly, he was on drugs. So the dynamic was generated there and more of like, and he told me, he was like, if you don't want to work certain days, it's fine. But anything you do, you have to tell me. So it was kind of like, I'm gonna give you your time and space, but I'm still the boss. Like, you still tell me everything. If you want to like not work, whatever, everything goes through me.
Now, sometimes pimps can be violent, and did you experience that with that pimp or any of your pimps?
Well, when I met him the first time, he was pretty, it's not like he was violent and he hit me, but his attitude and like his way of talking was like really verbally violent.
And I did read that you were into drugs at one point. Was that this time?
Yeah, I started getting into drugs when I started doing all of that.
And so then, that makes it harder to kind of make your own decisions and be clear about what's happening to you. When
I didn't understand what was going on. I feel like in a moment I was not conscious, and I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm just gonna party through it. That was my mindset. And I didn't realize how far in I was.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like how it all started. And then after this happens with this guy, that he leaves me kind of stranded, and I'm like, okay, I have to go back home. My stepdad helped me get back to Canada. I get back to Canada, I get to the bank, and they're like, look, you're not going to go to jail. However, you do have to pay for this. Because until we find him and blah, 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 you have to pay for this.
So did you have anyone you were talking to help you run through this scenario? I mean, obviously, it's not something you're going to want to tell your best friend or your parents. Did you have anyone you were talking to, or?
I was completely by myself. I told my dad a little bit of it.
And how did he respond?
He was like, I knew he was a bad guy because he met him. Like, my dad and him met for, like, I remember it was breakfast one time. And he was like, I don't like this guy. And then he was like, I knew it when you told me he worked IT, blah, blah. He was a hacker. He didn't like it, but he didn't know the whole story either. But yeah, then I was like, okay, I have to pay this. And that's when I got into the industry in an independent forum. So I started working in massage parlors. I started stripping. So there, I had, example, a pimp that was in my stripping side for a moment. But he was a different kind of pimp, where I saw his game was more making girls fall in love with him. And then when they were in love with him, that's when he started kind of like beating them up. With me, he was not able to make me fall for him. So we had a little bit of a different dynamic. But he had like a couple of girls. And then when I was like, I don't want to work with you anymore, he still let me go. He didn't like keep me, which is also to me important to talk about this, because people don't understand that it's not always a gun in your head that they stop you and they beat you up.
Yes.
There is cases like that, of course, but it's not the only case, and it is still pimping. Like, if they're taking your money and you're doing sexual work and they're taking 50-60% from it,
yeah,
it's still a way to pimp someone.
50-60%?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
He took a lot.
And I mean, in hindsight, well, you're still operating in this space a little bit, yes? Or you're not doing sex working anymore, except for on OnlyFans? Or
I just have OnlyFans, yeah. And like, it's more performance based. Like, I love to dance, so I still bring that like erotic dancing, but definitely no more dealing with men. No.
Well, so I know stripping can be extremely lucrative. So how is that compared to the money you made compared to now OnlyFans? I have friends who are on OnlyFans, or my stepdaughter's friend is on OnlyFans, and she literally shows her feet, and guys give her like $1,000. So what's the difference between stripping and now OnlyFans? And because I know you can make, I mean, there are celebrities in LA.
They're making, yeah,
bank on OnlyFans, and they're not having sex. But I know that it does move in that direction. They start kind of gentle, and then it ends up they show more. So tell me about the lucrative side of stripping and then now OnlyFans.
To me, stripping was not like the most, it was good, but it was not like crazy lucrative, because I did it in Toronto. So in Toronto, it's really different. It's way more chill. The culture that they have with strippers in the States does not really exist in Toronto. So the idea of throwing a lot of money to them, it's not there. You actually have to pay to get on stage, and you just make your money if you go to private dances. And
that's kind of the same in the US though. You do have to pay to get out.
But they throw, when I went to Miami, like, they throw you all the ones in the stage, and it does kind of like rack up. You can make like a good night just when your stage shows, like in Canada.
$500, because in Vegas you can make $10,000 in a night.
I need to go to bed.
You need to go to Vegas. You are in the wrong place. And there are girls that did Playboy that can make 20 grand, 30 grand just on stage. I know a lot about it because I told you my friend owned a strip club.
To me, it was more like the freedom of being a stripper back then, because I was already doing music and everything, and it gave me no schedule, or the schedule that I wanted. And it was not bad money. I was not like balling like the US strippers, but I was studying. I was in university. I was making music. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go work Friday, Saturday, Thursday. I would make like 500, 600 bucks a night. And that was good for a student and for an artist back in the day, right? OnlyFans was something that I had a bit of a rougher time.
Yeah.
Because first I started as a joke, which didn't help because guys felt like I was ripping them off. I was this is a really special OnlyFans. It was in quarantine. And I was like, just know that this is a special one. It's not like your average OnlyFans. They weren't subscribed. I put the subscription really, really high, the top of it, which was like $50. And it was a picture of my feet. I put a name on my feet.
The feet. Why? There's so many people with foot fetishes and you can make so much money with your feet.
But these guys were expecting to go in and find me doing porn. It was just my feet. Okay. So they were like so mad. And then I didn't do OnlyFans for a while. And then I started doing it again. But it was more also like trolling in a sense. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute. I can maybe do this in a way where it's faithful to my art and like find my niche and really make good money with it. So I always loved stripping, like dancing. I love dancing. My thing with stripping was not the stage show. It was getting off the stage and having to deal with men that are drunk, that touch you, that disrespect you, the hours, the drugs, the alcohol. That was my problem with the job, not the dancing. So I was like, what if I start like using OnlyFans to dance? So like be like my alter ego, a siren, and I just dance and enjoy it. And it's been working, and definitely I'm really happy right now because as an artist, I feel like I don't have to sell myself to a label or what they want. I just make all my money and do the art that I like.
That is amazing. Well, one thing that I think people have a really big misconception about is that strippers are stupid and that sex working is only for a certain type of person. But as I said, in LA, that everyone gets involved in that in some way. And so I think the idea of you being a businesswoman and taking control of your career, because honestly, when you sign with the label, as I told you, I worked for one, they're a bank and a very expensive bank. And you end up owing, I worked in artist development. I had artists that we signed that owed us money at the end when we let them go. I mean, that's insane. So I love the fact that you've empowered yourself to pay for your career and be able to do what you want in music. How do you think you're going to be able to break into the mainstream? I know that people know you here, but obviously you'd probably want to get into music in America. How do you think you're going to go about that? I'm sure you have plans and some ideas, because it seems like you're kind of a girl that gets something in her head and does it.
So, well, lately the first thing that I realized is that I didn't want to sell myself, and seeing my OnlyFans starting to do good and me financially well, I was like, okay, it's good because it gives me my time to just really be an artist. And something that I realized that's different here and in the American market is that the American market still has this really big thing on authenticity. Yeah. They're all about write your songs, be real, don't come here selling a fake story. Like, you can't sing about being a stripper if you are not a stripper. Yeah. It's kind of like that. So I think that that is a good strong point for me in the North American market. Here it's been actually a little bit difficult because they're like, oh no, it's too strong, you're singing about things that are like, it's too much. And if they sing about them in a commercial way, they kind of dilute them. It's more like Sweetie, and I'm like, girl, being a stripper is not Sweetie.
Well, look at Cardi B. She is killed the market, and she's totally open about being a stripper and all her experiences, and that's why her music is cool.
And in the States, they really want that. They want the real story. They're more interested in that, in a story. So I feel that for the American market, I do have a pretty good story to tell. And it's just a matter of time, because I love writing. I love writing in English because that's, as I said, I studied in that language. Yeah. I got my degree in that language. So I do feel it's easier for me to speak in English and write. And I'm not giving up on the English music anytime soon.
Well, what about, I think you're amazing. Like you to me, it's like I see star power big time.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's kind of in the industries I've worked in, you kind of have to see something special in somebody. But like, I just love your honesty. I think it's so cool. Who would you like to do a collaboration with in the U.S.? Because I feel like for actually artists in the U.S. are now breaking by doing collaborations with Latin artists. So who would be like, what would be your fantasy collaboration?
Doja Cat would be someone I would love to do a collab with. Okay. The Weeknd, of course, he's like, but he said he was not going to do any more collaborations. But I'm like,
well, maybe you just have to meet him in person. Maybe. Come to LA and just stalk him.
But definitely, I think Doja, The Weeknd are kind of like the vibe. I inspire a lot in The Weeknd in the sense of my lyrics being so raw about all the dark things that I lived. And Doja also being so like different and changing her flows in between her rapping and her singing. So
yeah, I saw that you did that in Pony.
I do a little bit of everything, and I'm like, I think it's a
have some water, take a break.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing, it is difficult to make those collaborations, and I think that in the US right now, the music taste makers are still the labels. It's real, like my daughter's independent, and she's had quite a lot of success, but it's always got a ceiling, and she's almost been signed by, you know, everyone, but it is hard. But I like the way that you're kind of going about it, because it's really from kind of an alternate route. I mean, I think that right now it's prime for you because people do want to do Latin collaboration, so you can do both.
I think that that's something that has been criticizing me, but I'm like, just wait for it. Like, I know that it's a strength to be able to do English and Spanish. Like, just do Spanish. I'm like, no, just wait for it. Like, I know that it hasn't been done before, because it's like, or you do Spanish or you do English, and if anything, you're a crossover artist.
Yeah.
It's not like someone is actually in a mainstream sense. There's a little bit of independent people doing it, but writing and making songs in both languages, it hasn't happened yet. And I'm like, I think it's just a matter of time for it to catch up, and then it's gonna be, because also the States has so many Latin people.
Well, I was thinking actually for you, Miami would be amazing, because A, if you wanted to do your day job and go, the strip clubs there are amazing, and B, so you can keep your living. B, there's so many Latin people, and it's just a good, I feel like a lot of people even from here are hanging out in Miami.
Well, I've been to Miami and I tried, because I was born in the States, so I could go work there. I didn't like it. It's big leagues. Like, I'm used to Canada. My favorite club in Canada was one in the middle of nowhere, and Miami is really aggressive. Like, it's big time. I had a pimp try to like jump me when I was getting out of the club, because I was there and I was seeing that all these girls.
So you were actually.
I was stripping there. Yeah.
Okay. You
11.
were stripping, but then also doing stuff on the side.
Yeah. Okay. So I was there on 11, and I see that all these girls are working like in groups, and they go to Kaizen groups, and I'm there by myself. So this girl comes to me and she's like, "You can come with us," because I was trying to talk to guys, and they were bullies. I was trying to talk to a guy, and they would come and be like, "Get out," and I was like, "Okay." It's like, there's 5 of them. It's just me. I'm like, and this girl's like, "Don't worry, you can come with us, but talk to him first." And all these little groups had a pimp in the club, and I was like, "Okay, I'm good. No worries. I'm not from here. I'm from Canada. I'm just working here for like 2 weeks. Have a good one." And the guy didn't like that. And as soon as I got out of the club, I remember security was like, "Get in your Uber fast." And he starts running. He's like, "Hey, you remember me? Come. And I'm like, "I'm not going there." And I start walking fast, and I see that he starts walking faster and faster, and I'm like, "Oh, this guy wants to jump me." So I ran. I remember like throwing myself in the car, and the Uber's like, "He wanted to rob you, right?" And I'm like, "Yep." And after that night, I didn't work anymore. I was like,
I feel like you're living in a subculture that maybe, like, if we're in Miami nightclub, I wouldn't even know all that was going on. Do you ever run into people that you knew when you were in high school or anywhere, and they know now that you're famous, and then what do they think about that, and what do your parents think about that?
Most of my circle changed a lot, because I feel that I got to where I am today by really liberating myself and becoming a completely different person. Like, I felt so much shame about being a stripper and having been a sex worker. There is like, I don't know where it is in the internet, but I remember I did a cypher once, and I was kind of like dissing another girl and being like, "Oh, you hate me because I'm a square." I was never a square. I was like I was not accepting myself. So the moment I did start accepting myself and liberating myself, I do feel like all my circle changed. I only had like 2 of my best friends that are still in Canada. They stayed, but then everyone in high school, everything, I don't speak to anyone anymore.
And what about your mom?
My mom, she's really cool with it. She's always supportive of me. She does take a lot of care of me, and sometimes she's kind of like, "Don't do this, be careful." But
I mean, I feel like as a mother, I would be, because I have a 24-year-old daughter, like, your story really stresses me out. And I feel like very protective a little bit. I feel that with you because, I mean, it's not very safe the kind of scenarios that you are in, and I'm hoping that, like, do you see yourself getting out of all of that and really just focusing, if you're given the ability to get out of doing the sex work, would you?
Well, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just doing the OnlyFans, right?
Yeah.
And I see
Okay.
it more as like a performance for me.
Yeah.
Maybe some people do see the erotic side and think of it more like sex work, but to me it's a performance. To me it's like erotic art. So I'm definitely like out. I do have moments. I'm going to Toronto. I'm meeting one of my girls. She's still in the game. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can go out to, have some fun and get some drinks from guys, but not more than that.
That's so good. Because I bet guys now will, like, do you think that, were there guys that maybe you had been with before that now want to, like, pay you 5 times more because now you're famous? And
yes. And there's some of them who actually send me a message like, remember me? Can I pay you $500? I'm like, what? Why are you offering me $500? How dare you?
You're like, no, maybe 100. No.
I'm like, maybe if you would have said a couple of thousand, I would respect it. But I'm like,
yeah.
But no, I'm definitely happy that I'm not doing it anymore because to me it's an energy thing, like sharing this energy with all these men. And I like being by myself. I love being sexy because of course I have a really difficult relationship with sex.
Yeah.
So by bringing so much sex into my art, into these performances I do, into OnlyFans, into my songs, in the alter egos I create, I heal a lot of the shame that I feel with sex.
Well, so how does that affect your relationships with men? Like, do you have normal relationships with men now? Because
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, it's not that they're not normal. I just have a hard time letting men in. Like, I don't trust them a lot. And I know that I should, open myself. But I take my time. And I think that it's just a matter of time to meet someone that has empathy and compassion and can understand what I've been through. Because a lot of men can be really sexist and ignorant.
I feel like that's a woman. Have you ever, like, delved into the lady pond?
I haven't dated women. I know that I'm attracted to women.
Yeah.
I know that in the sense I'm bisexual, but I've never dated a woman yet.
Okay.
So definitely.
I feel like that could be your safe space. Give yourself a break. And
I don't know if I should say it's kind of dirty, but
yeah,
whenever I watch dirty videos
yes,
and do dirty things by myself, it's
women.
Always women.
Of course.
It's never, I always, like, I'm not against porn, but I'm against the porn that women are not enjoying it.
Okay,
and
well,
every time you watch lesbian, these girls are having fun, and that's hot.
Because they know what they're doing. So let's say in 5 years, where do you want to be living? What do you want to be doing? And how are you going to get there?
I definitely want to be in between Toronto, the States, and Argentina.
Okay. Go Argentina. I like it here
little
too.
nomad, come here and like have my little time with my people and then go back there. And seeing myself in 2 markets and being the first one to actually be able to do it mainstream and true to myself. Because I feel like everything that I lived, I know it's a lot of therapy that I've been doing and it's been helping a lot of like a spiritual path too that just helped me. But it gives me something to say. It gives me a message. It gives me a why. And I think that when we're talking about how I think in the American market I can get in there, I think it's that. I think it's my story and what I've been through and the message I can have for women in the sense of like, shit's gonna happen and you can grow from it. You can grab your darkness and you can shine by accepting your darkness and looking into it and working with your demons.
I think that's super inspirational, and I hope that like that comes out in your music and you can inspire young girls everywhere, because I know you're not alone. The same girl who did the movie Pimp is working on a movie about sex trafficking, and so I'm learning about all of that dark area and kind of the light, how so many people go through so many things and then come out of it as better people. So I applaud you, and I'm super excited to see where you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.